Suddenly, my vision cleared and a cold wind caressed my body. This was the hill from which you could see the whole village. Looking down from this hill, I could see the lights on here and there, and knew that the entire village had awoken from its slumber. First Takano-san and Tomitake-san, then the mayor, and now even Rika-chan and Sadako had been sacrificed, and word of it was spreading everywhere. The strength in my knees left me. This could no longer be a joke. We could have found them. Mion would have told me I was a worrywart, and Rena would just be glad we did, and they would have smiled at me. My hopes disappeared as if I were awakened from a dream. This was what the view I could see was telling me. Following my knees, my arms both bent forward onto the ground, and I clawed at it with my nails. I couldn't figure out if I was feeling sorrow or frustration. Is this my fault? I couldn't endure the burden of my own sin, and I had just told Rika-chan about it. They had nothing to do with it, but Rika-chan and even Sadako had been sacrificed. It was like a cross that Shion and I would each have to bear the weight of until we ourselves were erased. Well, if I'm going that far, then the problem started long before that. My original sin of breaking taboo and entering the ritual storehouse without asking. I knew I shouldn't have gone in there from the start, yet I lost out to cheap curiosity. I hadn't felt so angry at myself until this very moment. There was a crunching sound. I wasn't even interested in who made the noise, despondent as I was. Keiichi-kun, are you okay? It was Rena. Perhaps my clawing at the ground made it look as though I was having stomach pains. She ran over and rubbed my back like she was trying to make me feel better. This is all my fault. It's because of me. It's my fault. Keiichi-kun's fault? You didn't do anything wrong. Please don't blame yourself for this. Hey Sarge, welcome. I could tell Rena was doing her best to choose the right words out of consideration for me. That's why I could sense her intent behind those words. Keiichi-kun, you know why Rika-chan and Sadako-chan disappeared, don't you? Is what she really meant to say. Because it was an emergency, Rena had ignored the reason why I wanted to make sure Rika-chan was safe, but now that we'd actually confirmed her disappearance, it was only natural Rena would start to wonder about why. However, with the situation having gone this far, I couldn't possibly tell her now. I didn't want to admit that Rika-chan and Sadako had disappeared, but I couldn't let Rena disappear either. Keiichi-kun, if you stay out here in the wind, you'll catch a cold. Rena sat down, bringing her eyes level with mine. Excuse me. Well, I'm gonna clear my throat really hard. There we go. They told us that children should go back home to sleep. Rena showed me her watch as she said that. It was long past 1 in the morning. Thank you for the hydrate, Sarge. Time was passing too quickly. Had I been crawling around here for that long? If we don't sleep soon, we'll have trouble getting up for school tomorrow. Even the adults are really worn out since they were up searching for the mayor last night, too. They were saying they'd break up a little earlier tonight. I was a little upset they weren't allotting as much time to this as they had to search for the mayor last night. That was something that I, the cause of everything, had no right to criticize them for. Yeah, I think that's because of the blush sprite, Lilybat. Song is good. It does go. It's alright. The police arrived a little while ago. Look, there's police cars coming into the village right now. Hearing that remark, I looked down at the village to see that there were indeed more cars than one would normally expect at this hour, coming from the darkness on the other side of the mountain. However, none of their emergency lights were on. Of course, their sirens weren't wailing either. That's right. All of the incidents that occurred right after Watanagashi were seen as the product of Yoshiro-sama's curse, and would be handled in secrecy. Rika-chan and Sadako, too. Their disappearance would end up exactly like the other serial incidents in the past. Surreptitious, unresolved, declared a mystery, and disappear from memory. Rika-chan's face, her sweet face like a Western doll's, would fade away. Sadako's smile, her energetic, fanged smile, would fade away. The more I tried to remember them, the less I would be able to. Bro, they've been... I get that you're upset, but they've been gone for like 3 hours. I deserve to be called an idiot dozens of times over, and it wouldn't be enough. I couldn't hold back the tears at my own sheer stupidity. I don't know what you're blaming yourself for, Keiichi-kun, but you should stop. I wasn't about to deny it. I couldn't. Even so, I couldn't affirm it either. I wanted to at least keep Rena out of this. If she found out, she would become involved. Please, Rena, could you just leave me alone? Even if I went home, I wouldn't be able to sleep. I mean, their bikes are missing, Iris. If I couldn't get to sleep, then I could at least... Then I at least wanted to search for Rika-chan and Sadako until I collapsed. The entire village was looking, and yet they still hadn't been found. I don't think I'd be able to find them if I went looking alone at this point. Still, I had to do it. They disappeared because of me. I couldn't possibly go to sleep while other people are out there searching. I had said that to myself in self-deprecation, but I soon realized that Rena was silently trying to find the meaning in my mumblings. Yeah, dude, you just said it was your fault. I realized I had misspoke. It's Keiichi-kun's fault? Why do you think that? Why? That can't be. Keiichi-kun, you're not at fault. I was happy Rena said these things to me, but she only did so because she didn't know the truth. If she knew that everything had been caused by my breaking taboo on the night of Watanagashi, then even Rena would curse my existence. However, I can't even allow for those curses. That would mean confessing my own crimes to Rena. If I spelled even one word of having snuck into the ritual storehouse on the night of Watanagashi, then even Rena could disappear tomorrow night. The gentle, spirited, always joking, always howling. But at a time like this, the most dependable person in the world, Rena might disappear. I don't want that. Anything but that. This is why... So there's K Mion shippers and there's K Rena shippers. And you can see why I respect them both. Listen to how he talks to them. Talks about them. It's good. He, really cares about them very, very, very deeply. This time, I need to bear my own cross. Proxy, Joey made Titty show up on my Twitter feed. He'll do that. He will do that from time to time. He makes it show up in the Not Safe for Work channel in my Discord a lot, too. I'm so glad that a male character in an anime-adjacent thing talks about female characters completely zero horny. Yeah, most of the time he does. Sometimes he gets a little weird champ, but... you know. Alone. Keiichi-kun, I know that you always have your friends in your heart. I can really understand feeling like you want to kick yourself. Hi, Prinny. So true. We talked about Joey and then you showed up, so that's the proof. Rena knows, though, that it's not Keiichi-kun's fault. You didn't do anything wrong, Keiichi-kun, and I know that. You know that? Oh, hi, Kara. Welcome. The shivering in my veins rushed up my back and replaced the sorrow in my heart with fear. Classic Keiichi line. I didn't tell her anything, did I? Maybe I accidentally said something that caused Rena to figure it out? This is bad. Now, Rena will disappear. Rena will disappear. Rena will disappear. Then Rena, the same way I always did, grabbed my head and began to pet it roughly. Keiichi-kun, are you thinking that Rena might disappear now, too? Because of Oyashiro-sama's curse? She put more force into the hand rubbing my head. You don't need to worry about that. Rena isn't going anywhere. I promise. Why, how can you say that with such confidence? I mean, someone's been sacrificed every night so far. There was no proof that it wouldn't happen again tomorrow night. There was even less proof, after all, that the sacrifice wouldn't be Rena. I don't care who you are. Just please, if you're going to erase someone, erase me first. Please. Stop cruelly getting rid of people we're close to, like the mayor for Shion and Rika-chan and Sadako for me. Shion's hysterical shouting came back to mind. They must be planning to kill us last of all. They're not killing the first people who come to mind. They start by killing those we're close to, and after they've caused us so much pain, they'll kill us. People already died. Yeah, Takano and Tometake are dead, and the mayor and Sadako and Rika are missing. That must be what they're doing. Rena. Please don't disappear. Please don't, as long as I'm still here. I could no longer conceal the sobs welling up within me. Come on, Keiichi-kun, crying doesn't suit you. Let's go back to the others. The housewives are cooking some miso soup for us. It'll warm you up and calm you down. Rena prompted me to stand. I didn't have the energy to oppose her, so I stood as she urged me to. We returned to the shrine grounds to find several gas stoves there with miso soup in big pots. The many villagers there sipped at the soup they were given in dead, stony silence. Their expressions were absolutely exhausted. Everyone had just been running around the village until a little while ago. From the dreary looks on their faces, though, I assumed they hadn't come up with anything. What Shion says there lines up pretty close with what Mion was saying about Sadako. Spooky Mion. Oh, when Mion got spooky when Keiichi was on the ladder. Oh, thank you for the posture check, Sarge. Hey, Chan, where did you go? I was worried you'd disappeared too. Sorry. Hey, Barrow. Welcome, welcome. Mion held out the miso soup for me, but I refused the offer. I didn't have much of an appetite. Mi-chan, how is it? Did you find any clues? Mion took a sip of her soup, her expression frank. None at all. School ended and they went home. Then the two of them went somewhere on their bicycles. Moreover, nobody ever saw them riding their bikes, so... Emotional intelligence is so rare, it's like a superpower, especially in this universe. Emotional intelligence is so important in Higurashi. She took a big bite of her Frank expression soup. When it gets dark out in Hinamizawa, people quickly vanish from the streets. Aside from adults hurrying back home from town in cars or on bicycles, it was normal to see absolutely nobody walking around outside. It wasn't at all strange that nobody had seen Rika-chan and Sadako riding their bikes. It was the same last night with the mayor. There's no hope. Mion's apathetic tone pricked my nerves, but that anger quickly subsided. She had been doing all sorts of things to try and find Rika-chan until just a second ago. If I asked her, she'd probably say she was up all night last night too, looking for the mayor, wouldn't she? She must have been far more fatigued than I was. Besides, what about me? I had spent the time hunched over in indecision all alone. I had no right to say anything about Mion. Kei-chan, I know it's hard, but let's turn in for the night. We just decided we should break up the search for now. Drink this and let's call it quits. Is this the end? Oh, no, of course not. Once it's bright out again, we'll do a thorough search with the police's help. They could have gone to Okinomiya, too. People are even saying we should go through all of Shishibone City investigating whether there are any witnesses, for both the girls and the mayor. Anyway, what happened, Kei-chan? Where did you go off to? That sprite startled me. You vanished all of a sudden. I was really worried. Suddenly, I was on the receiving end, but I didn't have the willpower to respond. Sorry. I'll be more careful. Nothing happened? There wasn't anyone suspicious spying on or stalking you? Nothing like that? Mion demanded with a serious expression. I was being criticized for how inconsiderate I had been. Despite being in so much pain, I was frustrated that I was being criticized, but it was my sin. My sin, and I must bear it alone. Nothing. I'll be careful either way. Sorry. Mion, now aware that nothing had happened, heaved a big sigh with her shoulders, looking relieved. Oh, my. I knew I smelled something good coming from over here. Oishi jump scare every time. I'd be much obliged if you'd allow me to have some. We heard the repulsive voice of a fat man. Kei-chan. It was Oishi-san, trailed by a handful of police officers. Oishi, don't listen to that kid. Common Keiichi L. He was acting energetically in a way unfitting given the situation. There's not much left, but you can have some if you want. Mion didn't like Oishi-san very much. Her cold attitude, though, didn't seem to bother Oishi-san in the slightest. Keiichi seems unaware that it's big boy season. It was like splashing water in a frog's face. Well now, miso soup leftovers have a bit too much salt for my taste. Confound it. Would you all like any? He recommended it to his subordinates, but everyone gave dry smiles and refused. So have the police gotten a hold of any clues? Rena's smile was warm enough to replace the miso soup. Don't you worry, little missy. Everything's fine. We're searching for them real good. He didn't say a word about having found any new clues. In other words, there had been no progress. See, the thing about Oishi-san is, as a first-time reader, I would not find him particularly suspicious. I'm not saying whether or not I think or know he's suspicious as somebody who's finished this series, but, my first time going through, I didn't think he was suspicious, but I'm like, why are you such a, weird asshole all the time? That sure was an annoying way of beating around the bush. In any case, it really has gotten late. All you youngsters should get on home and get some sleep. It'll be bad for your health otherwise. Yeah. Kei-chan, Rena, get some rest. These guys get our tax money. They'll handle it from here for us. Yo, Mion. We're taxpayers too, you know? Shut the fuck up, Oishi. Cop unions are not real unions. It's like we're drinking our own piss. No. Okay. Alright, Oishi, you kind of real for that one. I wasn't really in the mood for laughter. In fact, Oishi-san was the only one laughing like an idiot. Okay. Seriously, please do your best. Let's go home, Keiichi-kun. It'll be harder to wake up tomorrow if we don't. Yes, that's right. I can always bring you home if you need. Uma-chan, why don't you bring the car around? It's got air conditioner. No thanks. We came on our bicycles, so... No need to worry. We came in a truck. We'll just throw the bikes in the back. We may have gotten pretty sleepy, but we just needed to ride home at this point. I didn't want to bother the police like that. Rena, however, nodded. Okay, if you insist, we'd appreciate it. It's probably safer than if we went back home alone. When I thought about it carefully, I realized that Rena's idea was extremely rational. Rena is on demon time right now, no pun intended. She's like, Keiichi, don't go outside by yourself. And also, yes, let us give the cops a ride home because people are disappearing constantly. Rena's on demon time, aka being rational. Now that it's decided, let's get a move on, shall we? Okay, bye. Good night, Rena. Kei-chan. Yeah. Mi-chan, you go to bed soon too, okay? Good night. I waved my hand as well, saying goodbye. Rika-chan and Sadako still hadn't been found. My unease, however, was steadily being pushed away by sleepiness. Rena showed the police where our bicycles were so that Oishi-san could haul them up in their truck. He prompted us to get into the back seat. I could hear the springs squeaking as I sat down onto a seat that would normally hurt my rear end, but at this point it was very soft and was more than comfortable enough for me to sleep on. Ladies first, we'll start with the little Mrs. house. Where do you live? Thank you. My house is, well... We're not going to write an address in this visual novel. Rena's voice slowly grew distant. I felt myself being sucked into the void of sleep. I didn't know if Keiichi was falling asleep or if he was having a Keiichi brain moment. Hello? Maibara-san, are you asleep back there? When I came to, it was quiet. The car was parked. Oishi-san was giving me light slaps to the cheek. That seems unnecessary. It didn't feel good at all, so I woke up immediately. I'm sorry, I just fell asleep. Something was being held right under my nose. A clump of metal? It was a can of coffee. It's lukewarm by now, but cafe au lait is good even at room temperature. Aw, it's too bad, Kate isn't still here. Oh, thanks. I mechanically took the can and opened the pull top. Zanji, you're here, right? Northern Lion, I thought he pulled out a gun moment. The feeling of the warm, sweet liquid going down my throat awakened my sleepy mind. When my drowsiness receded, I started wanting to know why the car was stopped, why I was offered coffee. Oishi-san, who had been in the driver's seat, had at some point moved to the back. Christ, Oishi! Suddenly, I had a very bad feeling about this. It reminded me of the questioning yesterday at the library. A mistake too late by the time I realized I'd made a mistake. Today, of all days, it didn't look like I would be getting away. I had a feeling that Oishi-san heard what he wanted to. Until Oishi-san heard what he wanted to, he wouldn't be letting me go. Please don't get all formal on me. I'm not going to eat you or anything. Maibara-san. Okay, I'm gonna say something that is spoiler-free, but I think it's worth pointing out that no matter what might be true of Oishi, he is not. I mean, I'll just be as blunt about it. Oishi is not a sexual predator. Oishi is not a sexual predator and never does anything to a child in a shitty way. In that way. He might physically intimidate children a couple times, but I don't want people to worry about the idea that Oishi is like a predator, because that is not the case. Oishi-san gulped down the last of his coffee, then stretched wide, showing me how relaxed he was. That, however, only served to heighten my nervousness. But still ACAB. No, still fuck this dude, but like I just wanted to assuage any potential fears of that. What do you need from me? Need? Oh, no, nothing really. You're going to evade the question at this point? What a deeply unreadable man. Well, I don't need you for anything. I just thought that you might need something from me, Maibara-san. I don't need anything. A signed cop at birth is so funny to me. Oh, I see. Really? Are you sure there's nothing? There was only one side door in the back seat of this truck. In other words, my only exit was blocked off by Oishi-san. I couldn't get away. I could only limply hang my head and maintain my silence. Oishi-san, despite my reticence, relaxed and began smoking a cigarette. The cries of the insects outside seemed to be growing larger and larger, to an amount of time that almost seemed infinite. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Here I was sure you had something you wanted to talk to me about. Oishi-san exhaled a puff of smoke. The windows were open, but the tobacco smoke still accumulated inside the vehicle. How much did Oishi-san know? What did he know, and what did he want to hear from me? If finding out the truth made you disappear, then if I told him, would Oishi-san disappear too? Bro, I would say just tell him and find out. Fuck around and find out, honestly. I had a feeling that I didn't need to worry about that in his case. I wonder how this all ended up happening. Oishi-san addressed me in a low tone as if he was talking to himself. How did this all end up happening? How the hell should I know? That was what I wanted to know. You know Tomitake Jiro-san and Takano Mio-san, right? I know you do, because I personally witnessed you with them during the festival, along with Sonozaki Shion-san. Do you know how Tomitake-san and Takano-san are doing now? They've actually, well, passed away. They met very untimely deaths. Oishi-san probably played that card in order to surprise me. However, I already knew and didn't display the extreme reaction he expected. What's this? Did you already know? Unfortunately, for this question in particular, remaining silent was equivalent to saying yes. Oh, so then did you also know? That the reason Tometake-san and Takano-san were cursed like that? People are saying that apparently they went into some forbidden building. The storehouse for ritual implements. That forbidden shed, sealing away Hinamizawa's blood-stained past, where the mistake that started it all happened. Do you know about the rumors that say that the mayor and Furude Rika-san were cursed because of that too? That would mean it was mine and Shion's fault. He was right. As soon as we revealed what we did, what did they call it? A ritual storehouse? They're saying it was bad luck. The lock to it had been replaced by a simpler one, which made it easier for thieves to get inside. What? This was news to me. Oh yeah, we knew that from the tips, but Keiichi didn't know that. Until last year, it apparently had these big bars and huge padlock on it. I mean, you know, ever since the priest and his wife passed away, Furude Rika-san has been managing the place, right? Apparently, she talked to the mayor saying she wanted them replaced with a lighter, more simple padlock because the bars were too heavy for her. I didn't know anything about those big bars he was talking about, but the lock had certainly been a simple one. So that's why, if Takano has wanted to get in for a long time, that's why she could only do it this year. Because Rika requested that the lock be Rika-sized. It was a pretty cheap one too, and it didn't really fit my impression of what a lock for a place you'd store something as important as ritual implements would look like. Rika-san is a small girl, after all. The bars were heavy with rust, and they must have caused her a lot of trouble. So the mayor hired a craftsman and replaced the lock with a simple padlock so she could open it with a key. So, how does that mean it was bad luck? Here's what I'm saying. Thieves couldn't get in with the old tight lock. The mayor and Rika-san replaced it with a cheap lock and key on their own, so thieves broke into it. Apparently, that's how it's going down. That explanation's a bit... Letting that slide, certain members of the village delivered divine punishment upon the thieves who stole into the ritual storehouse, as well as the mayor and Rika-san who changed the lock. So that is Oishi's theory. At least, those are the whispers that seem to be going around. Maibara-san, what do you think? What do I think? I don't really know what you mean by certain members of the village. Are you familiar with the three families? Representatives from each of them gave short addresses at the Watanagashi Festival's opening ceremony. Did you see them? I came partway through the festival, so I don't really... Yeah, bro was not paying attention in Onikakushi-hen and was breaking into the storehouse in Watanagashi-hen. The three families are the three oldest families in Hinamizawa. To give actual names, the Kimiyoshi family, the Sonozaki family, and the Furude family. They each have quite the lineage, it seems. Long ago, it's said that everything in the village was decided by a council of the three families. Kimiyoshi family. Old man Kimiyoshi, meaning the mayor's family. The Sonozaki family was Mion's. So the Furude family was Rika-chan's family then? Bro, how many times have you heard people say the name Furude Rika? And the Furude shrine and the Furude... Okay. After the war, the Sonozaki family quickly expanded their influence. Practically speaking, after leading the fight against the construction during the dam conflict, they jumped to the top of the hierarchy in Hinamizawa. You see, though, in accordance with the old ways, they still decide important village matters only after consulting with the three families. That's why the leaders of the three families each have their own address at the start of Watanagashi. In other words, the mayor, the old lady currently in charge of the Sonosaki family, and the last remaining member of the Furude family, Rika-san. I heard that the Sonozaki family was pretty high up there, so Rika-chan's family was just as old? Well, as you're aware, she has no relatives at all. In reality, the Furude family holds pretty much no influence. However, it seems like people gravitate towards Rika-san on a personal level, and I hear that many of the village's elderly have blind faith in her. It was certainly true that Rika-chan had an odd sort of charisma amongst the elderly. So, what are you telling me about all this three family stuff for? That's confirmation that Rika was the last Furude. Yeah, Furude Rika is the last remaining member of the Furude clan. All the other ones are dead. Oishi-san paused for emphasis, lighting another cigarette. I've explained a lot, but I suppose it's still not enough. I'm asking because I don't understand. Oishi gave me a dry, meaningful grin and blew out another big puff of smoke. Members of the three families are disappearing one after the other. That's what I'm talking about. I've read that it's based on some kind of old traditions inherent in Hinamizawa, but I don't know much beyond that. I don't know anything about it either. That's why I'm asking. The leaders of the Kimiyoshi and Furude families have disappeared, so maybe the leader of the Sonozaki family will disappear next. Well, that's just a random idea bouncing around in my head at the moment. Just kidding, really. The leader of the Sonozaki family? Who is it? The current leader is the old lady at their main house, but it wouldn't be incorrect to say that practically all the rights of leadership have been transferred to her granddaughter, Mion-san. The visage of Mion giving prompt directions to the adults while searching for Rika-chan sprung back to mind. Mion? She's gonna disappear? I hadn't even thought of that possibility. All my hair stood on end. That's insane. Nobody wants that, right? Of course not. We can't allow that. Clamp. Oishi-san grabbed my shoulders with both hands. Then help us, Maibara-san. If there's anything you've noticed about Sonozaki Mion lately, please tell me. I was going along with him? By the time I'd realized it, it was too late. Oishi-san brought his face in closer, almost close enough to ram into me, waiting for my next words. It's pressure. Can't tear my eyes away from his. That moment, I heard a beeping sound. It was from the driver's seat. He ignored it at first, but then it started to bother him, so he finally let go of me and leaned into the driver's seat. Hello? Yep, loud and clear. I was saved. Of course, it's not like I could escape through this opening. I see. Yes, all right. Let's head back then. Yes. Okay. Apparently he was being recalled. Now that I knew I'd be freed, the tension in my body dissipated all at once. It looks like I need to get going. We were just getting to the good part, too. That's too bad. Oishi-san flung open the door, exited, and walked around the front to the driver's seat. He left the door open. Did that mean I could leave? You really care about your friends, Maibara-san. An admirable trait for a kid to have in this day and age. I totally understand that it feels like you'd be betraying them if you told the police anything. Maibara-san, it's the middle of the night, so get a good night's sleep and then think about it. Just a little bit of courage from you might end up being what saves many of your friends in the end. Did he want to say that the sacrifices wouldn't stop with Rika-chan and Sadako? You know this already, but every night since Watanagashi, something has happened. In the past, the curse only occurred once per year, but this time it's been going on for days. Yo, spirits, what's up? Welcome. What a prosperous year this has been. God, the way Oishi talks is so slimy. I don't think you can call that prosperous. The night before last night, and now today. There's no proof that something won't happen tomorrow night as well. Shoutouts to his suspenders, though. True. Like, he's Dilfy, but he's like a real piece of shit. It's our job to prevent such things before they happen, but for that, we need your cooperation, Maibara-san. I looked out the open window to see none other than my own house right in front of me. It creeped me out that he knew my name and address, but I was too sleepy right now. I was too sleepy to care. Well, you're probably tired. It's already 3 in the morning. Please, get yourself a good night rest. Yes, sir. I'll be going now. You don't have to call him sir. They can't make you do that. When I was about to get out of the truck, as if to deliver a parting blow, Oishi-san said in a raised voice, I'll be coming by every day until you feel like talking, all right? I don't believe forcing you to confess in interrogation room is really in fashion these days. I couldn't say anything in response, but me slamming the door shut probably served the same purpose. I could rock that fit without being a slime ball? You could, Sarge. After lightly beeping the horn, Ueshi-san's truck drove off. I went to the front door without waving goodbye. The door was locked, but the chain wasn't up. I unlocked the door and entered. Then walked over to the staircase. That was where I lost consciousness. Fashion? Higurashi would then cry. The etymological link between the word fascism and the word fashion is really interesting. You should look it up sometime if you never have. The words are connected. Yeah, there's a reason why fascists tend to be snappy dressers. Okay, we got 4 new tips. Oishi, this is the Japanese justice system in the 80s. That's pretty much exactly how you do business. This was from the scrapbook. I don't know which number. I think 9? The Sonozaki family. The one to drastically expand its influence after the war was the Sonozaki family. The leader at that time was Sonozaki Oryo, who still has that seat today. Sonozaki Oryo has grown old, and today you can only catch a glimpse of who she was at the time. From what I've been told, however, she was a leader extolled as the best in history. Having become so old, aside from going out a few times a week for lessons, she spends her time at home in solitude, and seems to leave most of the ceremonial affairs to her heir, Mion. There are different views on why the successor was not her daughter, but her granddaughter Mion, but it's rumored that it has to do with disownment of her daughter and son-in-law. So it's rumored that Shion and Mion's parents were disowned. That's interesting. That uninhibited granddaughter, Sonozaki Mion, still shows no signs of dignity required of the next leader. However, she does have Sonozaki blood in her veins, and is permitted the name of Demon. She still doubtlessly requires caution, and is probably hiding her fangs and claws, skillfully as the leaders of the past did. Okay, so here's where my Higurashi hyperfixation comes in handy. That's really hard to translate. But the way that Mion is spelled, it literally has the character for a demon in it. As does Orio's. So the Sonozakis who are to be the heir, who are like picked to be the next successor, are permitted to have the character demon in their name. It's an interesting thing. Wait. I forgot to read the name of this tip. I think it was the elderly leader of the Sonozaki family. Yes, the postal worker hasn't seen anything either. The Sonozaki main house has their seal hanging from their mailbox so that anyone can stamp their mail or parcels with it and drop it in. Does that mean Mion's... Real talk, Mion has yandere hair? I mean... Does that mean Mion's parents are not considered family members? I guess so. They're not considered Sonozakis, even though they have the name. Or maybe they don't. Maybe they have the dad's name. I can't remember. That's rather careless of them. So when was she last seen? She was last seen at the Watanagashi opening greeting ceremonies. She apparently returned home right after that. Well, she is pretty old. From what I've heard, she goes out a few times a week to take lessons, right? Have you found anything out about that? Every Monday she goes to the assembly hall to practice the Taishugoto, but she didn't go this week. Any calls to say she wasn't going to be there? Has anyone confirmed it? No, nobody. She apparently takes days off once in a while, though, so nobody thought it was strange. Tomorrow, why don't we pretend we're the town hall and call around 10 o'clock? Please figure out whether she's at home. 10 o'clock? Got it. Ever since it started to seem more and more like ancient Hinamizawa traditions had something to do with all this, he'd been keeping a careful eye on the three families. At this point, the leader of the Kimiyoshi family and the leader of the Furude family had disappeared. There was only one leader left. Sonozaki Oryo, the leader of the Sonozaki family. She was apparently a pretty old woman. Her dignity hasn't waned, but she only appeared before people rarely, so it was difficult to confirm where she was at any given time. She, the last leader, hadn't been seen since the day of Watanagashi. Was she still alive and well within the Sonozaki main house? Or had she... According to Sonozaki Mion, she had fallen ill and was sleeping it off. I wonder if she's really sleeping. I'd like to take a look at her face. And her pulse. You can say that again. The two of them breathed out a big puff of cigarette smoke. Oishi-san, about the search warrants for the Sonozaki main house and the Furude shrine. Do you think we'll get them? Oishi didn't respond. Exhaled another cloud of tobacco smoke, his surroundings now as foggy as his mind. Ah. So apparently nobody but Mion has seen Sonozaki Oryo for a couple days. From the scrapbook 10. The Hidden Demons. If this explains the naming convention after I did it thinking that they weren't going to, I'm gonna be so annoyed. The inhabitants of Hinamizawa, but god damn it, it's right there. The inhabitants of Hinamizawa believe that the blood of demons flows in their blood. As such, the character for demon is treated as very sacred. For example, usage of the character demon in names is apparently a right reserved for only the leaders of the Kimiyoshi and Sonozaki families. Case in point, we can see it in the current Sonozaki family leader's name. Oryo is written with the character... Bro, I don't know that kanji. This and only this is proof that she is a legitimate leader of the Sonozaki family. This and only this. In the same way, Sonozaki Mion, its successor, contains demon in her name as well, with me being written as a demon. I'd like to point out people get demoned away. True. It also goes for Oryo's daughter and Mion's mother, Akane, who did not succeed her. It's known that before the disowning, Akane's name was actually written as Akane with demon, though it was changed afterwards to Akane without demon, still read as Akane. I'm gonna translate this the best I can. Incidentally, it's thought that the first character in Mayor Kichiro's name, that one, originally meant demon, which can also be read as ki. It should be said that names using the characters demon aren't only limited to the successors of the Sonozaki family. You can even find it in the last names of the three families. For example, the characters for Kimiyoshi are likely a split-up version of demon. If you write it in reverse and top to bottom as this, it resembles the character demon. For the Furude family, who have been in the Shinto priesthood for generations, the word for fortune teller can be written without interval characters as that. I believe that with the addition of a demon's horn, the tick on the top of the character demon, the that now becomes that, which is used in their name now. In the case of the Sonozaki family, where Sonozaki is written, I can't find any reference to the character demon, perhaps because it's already ingrained into their first names. They were the clan responsible for running the Watanagashi ceremony, though I think that instead they included the contents of that ceremony into their last name. The zaki in Sonozaki is a conjugation for slice, and the sono, written as sono, probably contains the hidden meaning of human body, as it is a complicated mess, organs, enclosed by four sides. This is in the original, and I think including the actual characters was the best way to do this, because imagine if we were just reading this and it was like, but all this complex name stuff is the reason that I read all the characters' names in the proper Japanese order rather than, the flipped version that we have. Because there's stuff going on in their names. I think, in other words, that Sonozaki comes from those who slice open the gut. Damn. Sonozaki kind of means gut slicer. Homegirl's name is basically Gut Slicer Demon. Oh my god. I bet Gut Slicer Pussy goes crazy. I mean, clearly. She sliced my organs till I demoned away. I'm back. Looks like it's time for Mion to let her rip. How did it go? Did you find any clues? The officers shook their heads in disappointment. Exhaustion was plainly showing on everyone's faces. That was only natural. None of them had gotten a wink of sleep since the day of the Watanagashi. Chief, let the youngest of us take a nap, then switch them out. We've got a long stretch ahead of us, after all. Let's not push ourselves too hard. Rest up so we can take it easy as we go. I've been telling them to sleep in shifts. Nobody actually seems willing to sleep, though. Would you tell them yourself, Uishi-san? Oh my. You don't need to force yourselves. Omiyama-kun. Please let everyone sleep in shifts, starting with the youngest. Kamiyama-san, please do that. After the chief told him as well, Kamiyama-san left his seat. So, Chief, still no good on our request? It's just a rumor among the villagers in the first place, you know? It's going to be difficult without more concrete evidence. Excuse me. The only thing that I could ever do on stream that would embarrass me is if I thought that I muted to clear my throat, but actually didn't. Then I would die of embarrassment. Even when that evidence might be tucked away in there, we need evidence that evidence is tucked away in there. Chief, don't start speaking in riddles to me now. We have witnesses that say 4 people, including the 2 who died, went into the forbidden ritual storehouse without permission. This is all reliable information. The guttural proxy throat clearing. Some of you might want it, but guess that's a weird, just another weird corner of the OF. I mean, Lily makes a good point. You might call it information, but they're really only rumors. They're not concrete evidence. Well, it's true that we don't have any pictures of the 4 of them sneaking in with cloth tied around their heads. Anyway, those 4 saw something inside the storehouse. Something important enough that they'd be erased. Important enough that they'd be erased? What would that be exactly? That's why I'm asking for a warrant to go looking for it in the first place. Oh, that's Oishi's internal dialogue. Anything pointing out the Sonozaki family's connections to violent organizations would be a major contender. Like a pile of Tokarevs or a secret poppy production facility. The secret Sonozaki family fortune would also be pretty difficult to discard. Look, Oishi-san, I know how you feel. However, that storehouse is a sacred building belonging to the Furude Shrine, and we have to have proper consideration for the locals when dealing with it. I heard that there was an hour-long call made from Congressman Sonozaki to the big man. Chief, could he have nailed you back down? Anyway, as long as we don't have suitable evidence, we won't get a search warrant for the storehouse. That goes for the Sonozaki main house, too. Especially considering that's the jurisdiction of both Section 4 and the Prefectural Police's Crime Prevention Division. We need careful preparations first. If you say you need preparations, then why don't you just let me talk with them directly? Shige-chan is the head of Section 4, right? For crime prevention, it's Yamaui-san. Yamaui. Fuck. My Japanese pronunciation is on point. Me seeing a slightly uncommon name, Yamaumi? Yamaumi. Oh, it's Yamaumi. It's Yamaumi. Yeah. It's Yamaumi. Thank you. They seem like they'd be quicker to talk to if I sat them down at a mahjong table. Chief, you have a visitor. Yikes. Love when a cop says yikes. Pushing the employee who guided him in right out of the way was an old man who looked like a Yakuza member, given his crested kimono and hakama. Did he not get enough of this over the phone? I am Congressman Sonozaki. I demand to know who's responsible for this. This instant. Hello. I am the division chief, Takasugi. I don't need your name. I could have you demoted on a whim. You wouldn't even be enough. Bring out the one called Oishi or whatever. He deserves punishment for requesting a search warrant on the sacred Furude Shrine. I sincerely apologize. Oishi is currently out on investigation, and he's been difficult to contact. I'll take his place and hear you out. Yo, actually, though, kind of weird. Is it weird that I kind of want to shout out the chief? I kind of want to give the chief, like, the chief kind of a homie. This is a little, where do you get your pictures from of Spider-Man? I don't know. They come in the mail. That's a little bit what this is. So please, have a seat. The chief's eyes were telling me to get out of here. Perhaps I'll gratefully accept this favor. Maybe I'll go lay down in the nap room. Listen here. The Furude Shrine spent 2,600 years under the imperial calendar and 2,500 more beyond there. It is sacred, a sanctuary that must never be defied. The 800,000 gods, Oyoshiro-sama, and the spirits of our ancestors are enshrined there. A holy shrine protects Hinamizawa from when the sun comes up to when it sets, and from when the moon rises to when it falls. Who was the idiot who wanted to set foot in there? Besides, the right to religion is the most revered right of the people of this country in the Constitution. You dare to be so bold as if to sully using your own investigation's negligence as pretext? I cannot. I will not allow it. Are you listening, you lying scum? I'm angry now, so you're not getting off the hook that easily. Okay, so either Congressman Sonozaki does actually care about the sanctity of the Furude Shrine, or he's really laying it on thick. Yeah, so like the PS3 versions, and if I got the PS3 patch, we would have it. They give you a text box at the bottom of the screen with who is talking. They give you the name, but you lose the wall of text effect, which I think is really important in both of these games. In Higurashi and in Umeneko, the wall of text effect is amazing. Baby rage, Congressman Sonozaki. All right, let's get back to Keiichi's dumb paranoid ass. I saw a ceiling I was familiar with. Though I was groggy from sleep, I did notice that I was in my futon like I was every morning. I looked at my clock, and despite having turned in so late last night, I had awoken at precisely the same moment I always did. So low on sleep, but I guess you really can get up at the same time every day. The secrets of the human body never cease to amaze me. If I went back to sleep like this, I would definitely not be waking up again. I spurred myself on and slipped out of the futon. Mom asked me about last night at breakfast. Apparently, we too had gotten a call asking if we knew where Rika-chan and Sadako were, and Mom vaguely understood that something serious was happening. So then, you were out late last night with all your friends looking for them? Until about 3, I think. Yeah. Did you find them? Rika-chan and Sadako-chan, I mean. Crunch. I warily bit into my toast. It really didn't have any taste. Game's so true. Just then we heard the chime go ding-dong. I looked at the clock and saw it was about 5 minutes past my regular meeting time with Rena. It was her at the door. Good morning. Did you get any sleep? Did you? I think I slept for a few hours. You could probably count them on a chicken's toes, though. A good expression? I've not heard that one. Rena seemed pretty sleep-deprived as well. There was something missing from her usual spirit. Are you going to school? Yeah. I think it would be better that way. Oh, that was... okay, sure. She said, smiling, albeit stiffly. Rena was probably worrying her heart about those two as well. Even so, she wanted to go to school. If you stay home today, I think you'd just be worrying nonstop and sleeping. I don't want that. So let's go to school together. Alright. Wait just a moment. I'll get ready. I was just a little bit happy about Rena muttering that much consideration for me. We went to the place where we'd usually meet up with Mion, but she was nowhere to be found. We were a little bit late today, so we thought she'd be waiting for us. I guess Michan couldn't wake up today, huh? Ah, that's right. For her, it wasn't just yesterday. She was up all night looking for the mayor the night before last, too. We waited for a bit. Time passed until it got to the point where it was okay for us to go on alone, and we exchanged glances. What do we do? Wait a little longer? At that point, my brain, which had been woken up by the morning air, recalled the ominous words Oishi-san had left me with last night. That the leaders of the three families were disappearing one after the other. And next, it might be the Sonozaki's leader. Could Mion have... No, that couldn't be. Rena really does seem like the MVP of Watanagashi. Watanagashi-hen, rather. Let's go. Let's let her sleep for today. Rena gave me a pat on the back. Mion, she's still here, right? Hmm? Did you say something? Oh, nothing. Just talking to myself. Let's get moving. The two of us headed to school by ourselves. On the way, we saw a bunch of our classmates accompanied by their parents. It even looked like some of them were being taken to school by car. Surprisingly, the principal was also standing watch at the school gate. I'd never seen that before. Good morning. Good morning. The principal was bowing to our classmates' guardians. No, Principal Heihachi is posted up. The wooden sword leaning next to him was a little ominous. He's strapped? Maibara-kun, good morning. Ryugu-kun, good morning. Good morning. Your teacher has something important to say, so head straight to the classroom. All right? Rena and I said nothing. The madness that only existed at night had finally crawled out into the sunlight. That's what it felt like. Good morning, everyone. The hushed conversations that had been spreading for a while now all disappeared like an illusion the moment our teacher walked in the door. Silence dominated the classroom. The principal came in with our teacher as well. This was clearly not a normal morning. First, our principal has something important to tell everyone. Go ahead, Mr. Principal. The principal cleared his throat and approached the dais. I'm sure some of you already know this. The classroom was dead silent. Everyone was staring at Rika-chan and Sadako's empty seats. The principal briefly and simply declared that Rika-chan and Sadako had gone missing. There wasn't a single person in the classroom who didn't already know. There seemed to be many, however, who couldn't accept it as the truth. It had been confirmed to them now by the principal's words. There were sobs throughout the classroom, and I heard a kid crying. They steadily spread throughout the whole room. Yeah, Jack, that's a good point. The big-hearted principal wasn't able to keep his cool either. Okay, everyone, pay attention. From today on, your parents or guardians will be taking you to school. For those of you whose parents can't do so, you'll be coming here in groups. I made a handout, so read it carefully and be sure to show it to your parents. Understand? The teacher's voice was a little abrasive. Not even she could conceal the strain she felt from this unprecedented abnormal situation. They should have just canceled school today. However, Rena told me that the school was also like a nursery for students whose parents both worked, so some of them wouldn't want school to be canceled. Well then, let's begin the lesson. Class president. She's absent, I see. And whoever is on day duty, let me hear it. All rise. That feeling of wanting to maintain an everyday atmosphere, even if only in school, precisely because our lives had been messed up, was something that I agreed with at this point. I don't know. I think it would have been a good idea to check on Mion. I'm just saying. As for the teacher, who always had her lunch in the staff lounge, she ate in the classroom today. I had to laugh at her curry bento. It was just a rumor until now, but there was nobody to laugh with me. Rena brought her chair and lunch over to my seat. Today, it was only the two of us. The fact that we didn't need to drag any other desks over was sad. I'm sleepy. Yeah, I don't feel like sleeping anymore, though. In fact, I'm jealous of the people that could sleep at times like this. I've got nerves of steel. You're right. I was sleepy this morning, but my drowsiness had dissipated after coming to school and constantly feeling the incredible tension. Rena's bento box didn't have its usual luster. That was to be expected. Rena was up for a long time last night, too. She wouldn't have had time to make her lunch beforehand, since it's not like she would have gotten up early this morning. Grab anything you want. Go ahead, you can admit that my bento is better today. Okay then, I'll have some. Wow, a chikua roll with perilla and cheese? That's interesting. Rena, yours might have ready-made food in it, but it's pretty good too. I realized the two of us were desperately trying to brighten the afternoon mood to its usual level as much as we could. Eiichi and Rena, survival besties. Yay! I looked around the classroom, and it seemed like we were the only ones trying to do so, surrounded as we were by gloominess. Just the two of us sharing our lunches like this. It's sort of like something. How? Our laughter grew quieter. I was the first one to mess up. Sorry. I'm sorry. No, it's okay. It's not your fault. Our chopsticks both stopped moving. We couldn't keep it up anymore. Rika-chan, Sadako, I wonder where they went. Those words might have sounded too miserable. Everyone was thinking it, using roundabout ways to address the topic, but I came right out and said it. I heard Rena catch her breath. Yesterday, while you were gone, I heard a bunch of things, so I'll tell you what I know, okay? Sorry again about last night. Go ahead. At that time, since they had arrived for support, Rena was helping the Ladies' Society cook the miso soup we'd had. They reported all the information the villagers had gathered, and Rena said she overheard it. They didn't know anything important, though, did they? Rika-chan and Sadako went home after school, and apparently went somewhere on their bikes, but other than that... Mion had told me yesterday. We had no clues. Yeah. The police also said that they probably went out on their bikes to go play somewhere as soon as they got home. If they were going out to play somewhere on their bikes right after getting home, then they might have gone into town. So I guess they concluded that they disappeared while in Okinomiya. The police were saying how they were going to expand their search to Okinomiya in the morning. In town. It'd make sense why we couldn't find them even though we searched all of Hinamizawa then. Still, something didn't fit. I had no basis for thinking that, just a gut feeling. I revealed something to Rika-chan that was likely very important to her that day. And Rika-chan had told me to leave it to her. And then, what did she say? Thank you for the posture check, Sarge. Oh, right. If she didn't work hard, then something bad might happen to the dog, too, I think. With all the talk of dogs and cats, I still didn't have the faintest idea what she really meant, but it might have been Rika-chan's way of saying this was a race against time. Damn it! I'd selfishly put my anxiety on Rika-chan and tried to run away. When I thought about it, I shouldn't have run back then. I should have asked her more about the dogs and cats. The more I think back on it, I really screwed up. Anyway, I don't think Rika-chan was in a situation where she would just go off to play somewhere. Of course, I didn't have any evidence or conviction to base that on. It was just a hunch. I don't think she'd go into town. You think so too, Keiichi-kun? I agree. Rika-chan and Sadako-chan must have disappeared in Hinamizawa. I looked back at Rena, startled. I could hear the conviction in those words. Without replying to my gaze, she took her bento box and went to the hallway. I'm going to go rinse this out. She timed that in a way that broke off the conversation. Suddenly, I got the feeling that the next thing she had to say would be hard to say aloud in the classroom. But who was she going to do something at? Yeah, that's interesting. Rika seemed to think that there was something that she could do about this situation. I hurriedly grabbed my bento box and followed her. Rena didn't go to the kitchenette, but rather to where the water fountains... but rather to the water fountains out back, where the students seldom went. The water flowed down onto our bento boxes. During that time, Rena didn't say a word. And after making sure there were no other students around, she finally opened her mouth to speak. The whole thing about Rika-chan and Sadako-chan going to town to play and then disappearing, that didn't make sense for some reason, so I decided to investigate a little bit myself. The mayor's name is Kimiyoshi. The only thing that we know that he did was disappear. Who did you ask? What did you ask them about? I asked the Ladies' Society all kinds of things. There was a lot of tofu in the miso soup yesterday, remember? The old lady from Tomita Tofu Shop came too. Tomita Tofu Shop? Oh, I remember. That was one of the stores on the road leading to the hospital. Those huge lumps of tofu dancing in the bathtub-like cistern always looked nice and refreshing. The old lady says she remembers Sadako-chan stopping to buy tofu there on the way home from school. Tofu? Well, it's on the way home, right? How was that a clue? Just listen. Do you remember when we went to Rika-chan's house? Rena stepped away from the sinks and spread her arms wide to recreate the space of Rika-chan's room. There was a pot on her gas cooker and there was miso soup in it. I think there was probably about half of it inside. The rest was in the refrigerator. They must have been planning to make chilled tofu. It was on a plate in plastic wrap. As Rena explained, she walked around as if she were really going through Rika-chan's room. Still, Rena, why does this matter? Keiji, shut the fuck up. The detective is talking. Keiichi-kun, when you make miso soup, you put the tofu in last. That means that Rika-chan, or Sadako-chan, whoever was cooking, was standing there making it up until right before dinner time. Right up until dinner time? Wasn't everyone saying that their bikes weren't around, so they must have gone somewhere to play by themselves? The trash in the countertop bin was put there really awkwardly, too. Rika-chan makes most of their food and lunches, but occasionally Sadako-chan does it too. So Sadako-chan was cooking that night. So that means that Sadako, at least, didn't go somewhere to play. She was preparing dinner? Yeah. Then I took a look at the rice cooker and there was rice for two still in there. So she made dinner for both of them, but neither of them ate it. Is that it? Rena nodded. So next I looked in the fridge. There was some chilled tofu made from the other half that they bought. That's not all either. There was a whole bunch of plates with side dishes for dinner, and all of them were in plastic wrap. You usually plastic wrap things so that you can have leftovers for the next day. My mom does it all the time too, using them in breakfast or lunch. That's right. You use plastic wrap to save leftovers for later. So the fact that they were in the fridge means that they didn't plan on eating them that night, at least. Is that what it means? Keiichi-kun, think a little harder. Ryugu Rena. H-kun, turn your fucking brain on. Their dinner was totally untouched and wrapped up. What do you think that means? Well, that means they didn't need to eat dinner anymore. So they would have gone out to eat. Or ordered takeout. Keiichi! It must have been really sudden, too. If they decided to do that beforehand, they wouldn't have made anything, but there was dinner for two of them. That means that when Sadako-chan was making their dinner, they really thought they were going to eat it until right before they didn't. So then, the theory about the two of them going out to play and then disappearing is wrong. Yep. They disappeared after making dinner and right before they ate it. Probably around 7 o'clock. Where would they have gone at a time like that by themselves without eating? That's obviously where this is leading. H-kun, do you remember? On their fold-out table, there were things like soy sauce and a chopstick holder. There might have been something like that. I didn't remember. The container for the soy sauce, it was empty. There wasn't even a drop left. Chilled tofu wouldn't taste good without it. So I looked under the sink for the larger bottles of soy sauce they have. You sure know a lot about where they keep stuff. Rena going full Columbo mode? Some people love this scene, some people criticize Rena being able to intuit all of this. I've been to Rika-chan's house and cooked for them before. Rena cleared her throat, her face returning to a serious expression. Then when I opened the cabinet, the big bottle of soy sauce wasn't there at all. It wasn't there? What does that mean? Everything I'm going to say from here on is just Rena's idea, so please listen until the end without saying anything. Last night, Sadako was making dinner like normal. Rika-chan usually watched TV until the food was ready, just she was probably laying down watching a variety show or something. This image is so funny to me, of Sadako making dinner and Rika just like on the floor, head propped up against the couch watching like a game show. Sadako put the tofu in the miso soup, and right when dinner was about to be ready, she noticed that they were out of soy sauce. So Rika-chan, who had nothing to do, brought the big bottle of soy sauce to a neighbor's house to borrow theirs. I don't really know my neighbors that well. Would people be willing to just give her soy sauce? Yeah, it's not all that uncommon in Hinamizawa. So Rika-chan rode her bike out to get some soy sauce. No matter how long Sadako-chan waited, though, Rika-chan didn't come back. So then Sadako-chan called up the house where Rika-chan was going. Would Rika happen to be imposing on you? Something like that. Then the other person must have replied with something like this. Them? Word wrong? Minor spelling mistake? Higurashi destroyed? We have plenty of food here, so you should come too, Sadako-chan. Rika-chan has already eaten. I think that's how they called her out there. Sadako called Rika a few names in private and wrapped up the dinner she had made for them. She put it in the fridge so she could use it for breakfast and lunch the next day. Then Sadako got on her bike too, and headed for the house where Rika-chan was. Okay, but this is already pretty strange. You don't normally make so much food that you can give it to people who suddenly arrived at your house. A veteran housewife would never normally make so much food that she could feed 2 extra people. Could it have just been a coincidence that they made too much? It's still unthinkable. Rena flatly denied me. She's like, no, Keiichi, that part, the person was lying in my story in that part. Since Rika-chan knew that Sadako-chan had worked really hard to make that dinner for them, didn't she? No matter what kind of food she was offered, she wouldn't let Sadako-chan's dinner go to waste. This was all only circumstantial evidence and Rena's guesswork. Even so, it was all extremely convincing. It was the only ray of hope we had to topple the situation bereft of clues. Then, Rena, where did Rika-chan go to get soy sauce? That was the heart of it. It would have to be somewhere she'd be comfortable with asking for soy sauce, and somewhere Sadako wouldn't think it suspicious that she'd been invited over for dinner. Yeah, Iris, that theory does work well, but the fact that their bikes are gone is kind of the wrench in that theory. So, who was it? Rena slowly shook her head. That's all for Rena's guesses. These are all just ideas, okay? Keep them a secret from the police. What is there to hide? Even if only half of what you say is right, this should be a good clue for all this. Keiichi-kun, this all means suspecting someone from Hinamizawa. We can't suspect anyone without a really good reason. I saw a few girls coming over to rinse out their bento boxes. Rena cut the conversation short there and returned to the classroom. I stayed there alone, my body bathed in the lively voices of the cicadas. Let's think about this. In my own way. Rena had barely any information to go on, and yet she'd reasoned out that much. So there should be something that only I, who knew far more than Rena did, could deduce. Oishi-san said this last night too, but the incident was definitely occurring within Hinamizawa. Rena might not have wanted to believe it, but it's basically a given that the culprit is someone from the village. The trigger for everything was when the four of us trespassed in the Forbidden Storehouse. Somebody saw us go in there. For the culprits, breaking the taboo was a crime punishable by death. So that night, Tomitake-san and Takano-san were sacrificed. There were two left. Shion and myself. However, before the culprits bore their fangs on Shion and me, they went after the mayor, to whom Shion had confessed her sin. Next, they went for Rika-chan, to whom I'd confessed my sin. And what about Sadako? Just a stray bullet? By itself, Rika-chan being sacrificed after I told her everything was mortifying. But Sadako, who was sacrificed for no reason, wasn't that all the more regrettable? Everything was my fault. Who would be the next to disappear? Would it be Shion and me next time? Why? Why weren't the culprits going for Shion and me right away, though? If they had enough power to erase the mayor and Rika-chan, then why not just get rid of Shion and me? If they went for us, well, I wouldn't like it, but I could still tolerate it. What I couldn't forgive was them getting rid of those we'd confessed to. Now that I think of it, yesterday, Shion said something alarming. He felt like someone was watching her. So then, was someone watching me as well? Strangely, though, I hadn't felt anything like that until now. Even though I'm the root cause of everything, I had never once had that impression. Maybe that was simply because Shion was more cautious than me, and I was just careless. That's another story, though. Let's get back on track. Interesting, because in Onikakushi, when Keiichi thought people were out to get him, he felt like people were watching him basically all the time. Why weren't the culprits going after Shion and me? I felt like that's where the key to this lay. Could it be... Was I making a big assumption that I shouldn't have been... Was I making a big assumption that I shouldn't have been? I thought and thought, but couldn't come up with an answer. The only thing I understood was that I was a concerned party to this case. and that I had a duty to watch over it until everything got resolved. Did Keiichi and Shion talk again? No. I heard the ring of the bell declaring the end of lunch break. Oh, wait, yes, they did talk after. They talked on the phone, like, a couple times. The last time they talked on the phone was her freaking out about the mayor going missing. Would somebody else disappear tonight? If nobody else did, then I wanted them to get rid of me tonight for sure. And then I could put an end to all this. Shion's hysterical voice on the phone last night came back to mind. They planned to murder those close to us first, make us as miserable as possible, and only then would they kill us. Maibara-kun, lunch break is over. Go back to the classroom. At the principal's urging, I returned to the classroom, which was quiet as the streets at night. Yeah, Zanji, exactly. There were a lot of parents picking up their children after school. It was just like a kindergarten. The students whose parents didn't come went home as a group. We left school with everyone else, following the assigned route. Even while leaving, nobody said anything funny. They all looked like exhausted mountaineers, silently marching through the mountains. As we went, one left, and then another, and in the end, it was just Rena and me. We don't know about the significance of Shion's name. It hasn't been brought up, but I will say that Shion's name does not have the same me character in it that means demon that Mion has. I was supposed to escort Rena all the way to her house, but she declined. Will you be alright? It's not safe to go alone. It would be just as dangerous for you to go by yourself after bringing me back, Keiichi-kun. It's still light out anyway. I'll be fine. I see. Then be careful, okay? Yeah. Huh? Isn't that a policeman? Rena pointed towards my house. There was a car stopped in front of it. From out of that car came Oishi-san. Excuse me. Word wrong. He must have been waiting for my return to ambush me. Oishi-san started walking over wearing that annoying grin. Rena, you should go. If you get involved with him, you'll be here for hours. But what do the police want with you? Never heard Fom? Rena's a good person. Even when I made a fuss over Rika-chan's disappearance, she never asked me why I did. She could have been suspecting me ever since then, and that would have been okay. Even so, she still hadn't asked me anything. She didn't try and pressure me into revealing the truth. I'm not the culprit. I know that. That said, I can't say that I'm not totally uninvolved with this incident. Rena simply listened, smiling like she always did. Even though I had insinuated I was related to the incident, she didn't look at me as though I were saying, as though she were looking at something dirty. I'll tell you next time. Okay. I'm looking forward to it. Get going then. Rena gave me a slight bow and trotted away, leaving me alone with Oishi-san, who walked over. So it seems like it's cool. As long as you don't lie to Rena, it seems fine, you know? You can tell her that there's stuff that you can't tell her right now. She just doesn't prefer it when you lie to her, it seems like. Hello. Welcome home, Maibara-san. Hello. It looks like your parents aren't here. My, was I in a bit of a spot. Came all the way to my house? Could only thank my good fortune that my parents were absent. I'm not gonna do Oishi-san's voice as low as I've been doing it because it's hurting my vocal cords to go that low for that long. Since neither of them were around at this hour, they would probably be back late. I think Dad got called out on business. I don't think he'll be back until later. I see. Well, that's convenient, I suppose. We can do this without giving your parents any strange ideas. Oishi-san pushed my back, prompting me to walk. It seemed he wanted me to get in the car. Are you taking me to the police station? I wasn't the culprit, but I was the cause of everything. It wouldn't be weird if you wanted to investigate me. That kind of gave me a resigned feeling. No, I just don't want to stand around talking. We can just talk in the car, that's all. Come now, don't be shy. He opened the back door and urged me inside. If I got in, I wouldn't have a very easy time getting out. If I said no, however, then this man might really handcuff me and take me away. I couldn't refuse. I could only accept in good grace. I get a warrant. The inside of the car had been cooled too much by the air conditioner, and there was a rusty smell coming from the filter, which must have been cleaned only rarely. Disgusting. Oh, is it too cold? I'll turn the car off. He turned off the engine, and it suddenly became quiet. The voices of the Higurashi, with all their cool loneliness, snuck inside. It sounded to me like a chorus of voices, lamenting my exorbitant punishment for having harbored such foolish curiosity. For a few moments, while listening to those voices, I myself lamented the nights that had been twisted and distorted since that night. Ueshi-san, as if waiting for me to voluntarily begin talking, lit a cigarette and listened to the Higurashi. Say the kwa. I refuse, even though I just sort of did it. The silence became deafening, and I was the one who folded first. How is the investigation going? The investigation? Of what? There have been so many. Which do you mean? All of them. Well, all right then. They're officially secret investigations, and we're under a media blackout, but I'll let you in on them. And shall we start from the first incident? The freak deaths of Tomitake-san and Takano-san on the night of Watanagashi. On this one, embarrassingly enough, we haven't made any progress at all. First of all, Tomitake-san. There are indications on his body that he was assaulted by a group of people. We have no explanation for him clawing out his own throat and dying. We suspect an overdose from a stimulant or something, but we didn't detect anything. What about Takano-san? The same. We're in the dark. Autopsies for those who are burned to death are real tough. We believe she was doused in gasoline after she was strangled. That one falls under the Gifu Prefecture's police department. They haven't been very cooperative, even though it happened in our territory. Oh, that's not really relevant, though. So the police don't know anything other than the fact that the victims died inexplicably. Nonetheless, the times when the incident occurs should have generally placed right after the festival ended. It's a bit uncertain in Takano-san's case, but the likely prospect is that she was murdered at about the same time as Tomitake-san, then dumped in the mountains in Gifu. Why would they bring a dead body all the way to the mountains? They should have just brought Tomitake-san out there too. Oh my, Maibara-san, you're quite sharp, you know that? Of course, I do believe that is something we need to be attentive of. There are a bunch of other suspicious things, but this is about all I can tell you at this point. How about the mayor? Have there been any clues? Having exhausted that topic, I changed the subject. Otherwise, he might turn the conversation on me. Thank you for the posture check, Sarge. It was successful. We investigated his movements on the day he disappeared. We didn't find anything that could provide any clues, but I'll tell you about it anyway. The mayor, Kimiyoshi Kichiro. Apparently he was suffering from severe hemorrhoids. People who have lived a long time have an unusual amount of pride. So the mayor hadn't been telling anyone that he was going to the proctologist at a certain university hospital in Shishibone. I was just cracking my back. What? On the day he disappeared, he had an appointment for a checkup, so he went out first thing in the morning. Even I knew that big hospitals, like university hospitals, had a really long waiting time. Apparently, people would get in line for hours beforehand, even if they had an appointment. His exam ended at 1 p.m. After that, he ate a light meal in the hospital restaurant and passed the time reading a magazine. We know this because of a receipt we found in his wallet at his house. There was nothing suspicious about all that. That day, he had planned to go to a meeting in the assembly hall at the evening. He supposedly returned home with plenty of time to spare, but while on the train coming back, there was an accident. Seems it delayed him a bit, and he only got back to his house right before the meeting was scheduled to start. His family witnessed a very hectic mayor leaving to go to the assembly hall at the shrine. Well, you never know with posture check what you're gonna get. It's like a slot machine. I might crack my back and nothing might happen at all. What was the meeting about? He disappeared on his way back home, right? The three families and the essential members of the town assembly were at the meeting. We think they were discussing how to deal with the serial freak deaths incidents that had been happening again this year. So then, on his way home, the old man who had treated Shion like his own daughter, he was a dependable person who would encourage Shion whenever she felt pressured by anxiety, and yet Shion's painful voice struck me right in the heart. Huh? What's the matter? I was taken aback by how strange my own voice sounded. Why was it that just surprised me? I squeezed my head with my hands to try and drag back out what I only realized for a split second. Remember, my Bara Keiichi. You just realized something. Thank you, Keiichi. Something important. The night of Watanagashi. The night when everything started. That night, Akano-san and Tomitake-san died. The next morning, word of the incident had spread throughout Hinamizawa. They planned to talk about it during the evening meeting. The mayor, however, had an appointment at the hospital, and as planned, he went there without telling his family. He got a checkup at the hospital, ate something. We need a different picture for each of these. And then there was an unexpected delay on his train ride back. When he returned, the meeting was already about to start. The mayor changed clothes, got on his bicycle, and hurried to the assembly hall at the shrine as fast as he could. From when he heard about the incident on the night of Watanagashi until when he showed up at the assembly hall, everything he was doing that day was done in secret. During that time, nobody found out that he went to the hospital alone. He ate alone. And he got on the train alone. That all meant that he had absolutely no contact with anyone else. You couldn't have even called him on the phone. Okay, but what does that mean, my Bara Keiichi? Why does that matter, my Bara Keiichi? Kei-chan, what should I do? What's wrong? Tell me. We're not keeping secrets from each other, right? Old man Kimiyoshi, I told him everything. I told him everything. I told old man Kimiyoshi everything. That night, I told the mayor that we snuck into the ritual storehouse. Also that someone saw us and was out to get us. Right. What then? Old man Kimiyoshi didn't get angry. He smiled, then told me if I was properly sorry about it, there was no way I'd be demoned away. He was really smiling, and he told me to leave it to him. Sweat burst out of my body like bullets. They became one long strand, then slid down from my forehead to my nose, and fell. So then, what does it mean? This wasn't what I thought. This wasn't what I thought Keiichi realized, but it is something else. Hey, Maibara Keiichi, no more playing dumb. When did she tell him? Shion said she learned of the incident from a phone call her father had made that morning. Yeah, there was no reason to tell him that night, because Shion said that she didn't know about the incident until the morning. The mayor had left the house first thing in the morning for his appointment at the hospital. He didn't tell anybody where he was going. Nobody knew about him going to the university hospital. Furthermore, his train ride to his house was delayed by an accident. As soon as he got home, he rushed out to the assembly hall. Then the meeting at the assembly hall began, and continued until it was dark out. Then everybody left. Nobody saw him until after the meeting was over. He just disappeared. Which meant, Maibara-san, are you alright? If you're too hot, I can turn on the air conditioner, Another part of me was messing with my thoughts, demanding that I not think any further than that. My head was pounding violently, and the fluids packed inside it all blended together until nothing made sense. It was just about to settle, yet it had been smashed and melted in the blink of an eye, no longer able to retain its shape. Maibara-san? Are you in there? Yeah. Oishi-san lit yet another cigarette. There was yet another cigarette butt placed in the ashtray. Was it displaying the passage of time? Had my thoughts been frozen over for that long? I've tried to tell you everything I know. In return, feel free to tell me anything you want, Maibara-san. My mind had become a gigantic oozing mess. My brain felt like it had been totally minced by the blades of a blender, and I couldn't think. Now, don't clam up again. If there are any misunderstandings, I'd like to clear them up first. I don't think you're the culprit here or anything. Oishi-san gave his best attempt at an adult smile. I know the four of you snuck into the ritual storehouse that night. Everyone in the village heard rumors about it by the next day. That in itself means we should take you in for trespassing, but that isn't the problem. It's what was inside. What was inside that made the people who snuck in there end up as sacrifices? There wasn't anything. As soon as I said it, I regretted confirming my presence there, but I knew it didn't matter anymore. Was there really nothing in there? I mean, everyone who went in is being sacrificed one by one, you know? Even the mayor and Rika-san, who switched the lock on the door, were sacrificed. What was inside that could have caused such terrible things to happen? Tomitake, I will say that Tomitake seems to have died in the exact same way as Onikakushi-hen. I was far too tired of keeping quiet about this. Perhaps that was Oishi-san's goal all along, but again, that didn't matter anymore. There were just a lot of torture devices that were used a long time ago. I looked around at them with everyone. Was that really all? That was really all. There was nothing terrible in there that would make you keep silent? Like a pile of psychoactive drugs? Maybe a secret poppy workshop? Perhaps there were mountains of Soviet or Chinese handguns. There weren't any suspicious wooden boxes or containers packed in there? There was nothing as exaggerated as what Oishi-san was hoping for, but he's like, come on, kid, let me get these fucking Sonozakis. Let me get them. I felt like, in a way, there were plenty of terrible things hidden away in there. From the perspective of someone who viewed the storehouse as sacred, whether or not I had seen some crazy things didn't matter in the slightest. The four of us broke the taboo. Punish us. That should have been what happened. We put in a request for a search warrant thinking there might have been some secrets in that storehouse. It's been the sabotage of the century. They said it would be an insult to religious figures and something about the right to free religion in the Constitution. Jeez. That's why I really didn't have any other recourse but to ask you since you went in there. A cop complaining about the Constitution, huh? There really was just old, rusty, dusty, shorter torture equipment. Nothing else stood out. And Tomitake-san and Takano-san were only killed as a punishment for having broken the taboo? I didn't have an answer for the only part. I suppose I won't bother hiding it anymore. You're the only one to escape harm so far. Everyone but you has disappeared, and yet you alone are safe. What's the difference between you and them that would protect you but bring harm to the others? That's what I want to know. There was something wrong with what Oishi-san was saying. You alone. You alone. What? Wait a second. What do you mean by you alone? I'm saying that you alone have been left alive, right? Out of the 4 people who tiptoed into the storehouse for ritual implements, I mean. The only one left alive? Hold on. Shion was still... Tomitake Jiro-san and Takanomiya-san died that night. And Sonozaki Shion disappeared the next day. Only you are still safe and sound at this point. Why only you? I'm saying that's what I want to know. Shion disappeared? That's impossible. I unintentionally raised my voice, but I didn't care about that. Omitake-san died, Takano-san died, and Shion disappeared? When did she disappear? What is this guy talking about? Oh, well now, I thought you were long since aware of this. This is the first I've heard of it. Shion disappeared? When? Well, going back a bit, she disappeared the day after Watanagashi. Going back a bit? Stop saying stuff I don't understand. Sonozaki Shion spends the nights at relatives' houses depending on her mood on any given day, though no one thought much of not knowing where she was. She frequently takes days off from school, too. Her teacher had been pretty troubled by it. I didn't ask about any of that. I'm asking you when Shion disappeared. I told you, it was the day after Watanagashi. The fluids in my body all reverse direction. Now that's a Keiichi line. I lost my sense of balance, and everything I could see started to warp and twist out of shape. I simply couldn't endure it. Hang on. Shion had already disappeared? Then, that night, that call, that phone call, who was that? She called me every night. She encouraged me. We vowed that we would do our best to live on and not be erased. Yes, that should have been a phone call with Shion. Should have been a phone call with Shion. Should have been a phone call with Shion. She took breaks from class like it was nothing, and her family wouldn't listen when I told them, so I didn't bother calling the school in the end. So it ended up taking quite a while before we realized she'd disappeared. I felt a stabbing pain like needles were being pushed into every pore of my body. It started on my back and began spreading throughout the rest of me. When it had completely covered the surface of my skin, it began to worm its way inside my stomach as well. Don't you remember? We talked at the library the day after Watanagashi. Shion-san was there then. That was the last we saw of her. No one knows where she's been since. That can't be. That day, Oishi-san had only caught me, and Shion bounded away, lying that she needed to go to work. Didn't she call me that night? Her job was at a restaurant called Angelmore, right? She hasn't been there since that day. She's been completely absent ever since. The person at the restaurant couldn't get in touch with her. He was really worried. That can't be. It can't be. It's only circumstantial evidence, but after she left us at the library, but before she made it to work, I think it's appropriate to consider her having disappeared during that time. Right after Shion ran away without me? It seems that you didn't know. Maybe if you had said something earlier, this would have gone more quickly. Now you understand, right? You're the only one left. You're the only survivor of the 4 who slipped into the ritual storehouse. It couldn't be. It just couldn't be. If something else happens, it would happen to you. I need you to understand that, Maibara-san. It can't be. It can't be. It can't be. Shion had already disappeared? It couldn't be. It couldn't be. I talked to her the day before yesterday. I talked to her last night. She was going to call me again today. That was Shion on the phone. Shion on the phone. It was from Shion. From Shion. Shion has long since disappeared. Next will be you. Then, who was on the phone those past nights? Who was on the phone those past nights? Who was on the phone those past nights? It can't be. Higurashi when they cry. Then who was phone? Who was phone, chat? I lay down on the couch and stayed there dazed for a while. My mind was completely blank. I couldn't think about anything for more than a few seconds. There was a note in my house saying that Mom and Dad would be home late and that I should have some ramen or something for dinner. I could make it whenever I got hungry, but I had no appetite, so I just stared blankly at the ceiling without eating anything. The hands of the clock were already pointing at 10. Would I get another phone call like that today? Even though Shion had already disappeared. Would she still call me? Oh hey, is this the night of the business trip? I don't know if it's the same day, but they are gone again today. Where were they calling from? And who were they? The more I thought about it, the more I started to tremble. I even thought about just disconnecting the phone line. If I had been thinking a little less logically, I really would have done it too. Just hold on, Maibara Keiichi. Oishi-san admitted it himself, didn't he? That Shion went missing a lot? Couldn't she have just gone to relatives that Oishi-san didn't know about and have been there ever since? Shion and I were both being targeted by somebody. So it wouldn't be strange to think that she went somewhere she usually didn't in order to hide. That must be why Oishi-san couldn't locate her, and why he labeled her a disappearance. Yeah, that had to be it. Shion hadn't disappeared at all. Then my right hand moved of its own volition and slapped me on the cheek. Its cold sting let me calm down a little. Don't just convince yourself of the most convenient possibility, Maibara Keiichi. Oh, hey, Zeros. I knew I didn't want to admit she disappeared. Admitting it would mean that something really terrifying was happening. I just needed to figure out whether Shion was the one on the phone or not. Would I ask her if she was actually Shion? That seemed like an incredibly absurd thing to do. Still, don't run from this, Keiichi. If the person on the other end still believed that I thought she was Shion, then that gave me a tiny advantage. Casually, completely casually, I would listen to what she had to say, and then fend her off. I would tear the skin off the monster. It would definitely be really scary for me. However, as the last survivor of the people who went into the storehouse that night, this was my duty to perform. Still, then who would call me and pretend to be Shion? I may have only heard her over the phone, but her voice shouldn't be that easy to replicate. That was definitely Shion's voice. It sounded just like her. It could have only been Shion. There was someone, though, wasn't there? Someone who sounded just like Shion? Mion. Who else could have done this? At this point, seriously, after all this time, all those little things that didn't quite make sense about Mion until now overwhelmed my mind. Like being questioned about sneaking into the ritual storehouse, and how she shook the ladder while spouting curses. Who else could have... Why, though? Why would Mion? I thought back to the things about the Sonozaki family that I had heard from Oishi-san and Shion. Mion was always entangled in the incidents, in a position where she was omnipotent. Some of that information included things like that Shion had told me after she disappeared. I madly scratched my head. Courage. Give me the courage. Just a little bit of courage to pick up the phone. I know it will ring tonight. It would be so easy to run away. That, though, would be the same as making it easy for them to erase me. I cannot run. I must stand up and face it. After all, the next sacrifice would definitely be me. I was sure Shion would use tricky words to try and trap me. Be careful. Be careful. I'm scared. I don't want to do this. 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 At that point, it rang. Hey, Zeros. Good girl. Good job on studying. Okay? The phone rang, and I didn't know where the call was coming from. Shion had disappeared. Disappeared a long time ago. Disappeared the night after Watanagashi. Yet, until today, she had been calling me like nothing happened. Now again, tonight, the people that had disappeared, their corpses simply hadn't been found. I really didn't think they were alive. So if it was Shion on the other end, then did that mean she was calling me from another world? Of course, it couldn't be. Oh, Shion got isekai'd. A living being was calling me, pretending to be Shion. Shion was long gone, and yet, as though she were alive and well. The phone continued its incessant ringing. I didn't want to pick up if I didn't have to. I had just concluded, though, that not doing so wouldn't solve anything. And what would I do after I answered it? Would I immediately declare she wasn't Shion and ask who she was? Alternatively, would I pretend I was still fooled and try to grab her by the tail? That would probably be the safest thing to do. What I was most afraid of was what the person on the phone would do when she realized I knew she wasn't Shion. However, as long as I continued to let her think I was fooled, she wouldn't do anything extreme, right? If I just make sure to be careful, that should be the safest option. Okay, give me a sec, chat. I apologize for this. This isn't what I normally do, but I'm putting my shirt on because I'm getting cold. Yeah, wouldn't it be so funny if it's not directed, if it's not related to the Sonozakis at all? Whatever this call is. Iris. Interesting. That's quite the swing. Wild speculation the cicadas are symbolic of something insectile or parasitic, like some kind of bug demon. Also interesting. I'll answer the phone. Once I do that, I'll talk to her as if nothing happened. That wasn't all I'd do this time, though. I'd scope her out. Who was she? What was she thinking? And what was she after? Why was she doing this? Was she really the one who killed Tomitake-san and Takano-san? What happened to the mayor? What happened to Rika-chan and Sadako? I reached out for the receiver, my arm trembling. There were too many things I wanted to know. Too many things I wanted to ask. I was scared. I should start by picking up the phone. Pick it up, Keiichi. Pick it up, Keiichi. Hello? Oh, how relieved I would have been if it hadn't been a call from Shion. Ah, Kei-chan? It's me. It's Shion. My momentary, convenient, and above all, fleeting prediction was ripped into 1,000 pieces. I couldn't help shaking at this point. Get ready for this. You took a long time to pick up. I thought you weren't home and I was about to hang up. Sorry. I was just in the bath. Did your family not pick up for you? Could your parents be out right now, Kei-chan? It's good. That's fine. I failed. Keiichi. Buddy. Oh, buddy. I let her in on a fatal piece of information that I was currently the only one at my house. Unravel. Well, no, they're not really. Anyway, have you heard about Rika-chan and Sadako? No. What happened after that? Were they found? Nah, they weren't found. Hey-chan, please don't lose hope. If Oishi-san hadn't let me know, then I might have allowed myself to shed a tear or two at Shion's considerate words. Instead, now that it had come to this, I couldn't take her words at face value. This person on the other end of the receiver. The more perfect a Shion they were, the more my blood curdled in fear. Rika-chan and Sadako, they were kidnapped, weren't they? Yes, I don't think there's much doubt. Just how cruel and grave a meaning did those words hold? Their weight astonished me, and then a moment later, I was overcome with numbness and felt like I would pass out. I had asked if Rika-chan and Sadako had been kidnapped. Shion, in turn, had answered that there wasn't much doubt. That cruel meaning behind her words. Rika-chan and Sadako were... no, I mean, I'm sorry. About the mayor, what do you think happened after he was kidnapped? Yo, Votum! Thank you so much for the raid. Yo, please give Body a follow if you do not already do so. Wonderful VTuber. Welcome, Raiders. I really enjoyed his playthrough of Disco Elysium. That was my biggest Votum lurking period of time. Spotty playing disco. Good. Spotty plays fighting games and some of the same kinds of stuff that I do. You should definitely check them out if you have not done so already. Welcome, Raiders. I'm Proxy Askew. I'm a VTuber. I'm an alien. Disco's a crying game. It is a game what makes you cry. I play a lot of fighting games and RPGs and visual novels. And for some reason, I have made the decision to play Higurashi When They Cry in its entirety on my channel. And so here we are. We are pretty deep in Watanagashi-hen, the second book. If you're familiar with Higurashi, welcome. If you're not familiar, if you plan on hanging out, get ready. But I am going to be doing some Street Fighter 6 very soon. When the open beta comes out, and then when the game comes out, we're probably gonna be alternating between Higurashi and Street Fighter 6. Vadi, are you planning on playing Street Fighter 6? Alright, I'm gonna get back to this dialogue. What do you think happened after he was kidnapped? Do you think he's still alive? What happened to Rika-chan and Sadako after they were kidnapped? That's what I wanted to ask, but I frantically caught myself. What if she had given that question a terrifying response in such a way to sound like it had nothing to do with her? I was scared of that, so I immediately brought up the mayor. That said, however much I talked about the mayor, I think he was killed. Hey, wait. That was quick. I think it must be really hard to kidnap someone and keep them like they are. As long as they're not hostages, it would be most practical to kill them once you were done with them. The world started to bend so much I almost lost my balance. The scenery in my eyes whirled around and around like the hands of a clock and tried to swallow me whole from below. We've never seen someone who survived an attempted kidnapping? Well, maybe that happened to Keiichi. He fought those dudes in Onikakushi. I frantically put a hand on the wall to support myself. A moment later, a severe nausea welled up within me. How was she saying such things so lightly? Kill them so readily. I mean, what's a human life or two anyway? It's a horrible thing, but I think that's probably what happened. Oh, this track go crazy. Listen to this. If the mayor was killed, would that mean the same had happened to Rika-chan and Sadako? No, that couldn't. They weren't some random old man. It was Rika-chan. It was Sadako. They couldn't kill them so readily. It's probably better to think that Rika-chan and Sadako-chan ended up the same way. Eiichi does a big phonetic scream that I'm not gonna do. I'm not gonna do a huge ooh-ah. Those were the words I wanted to hear the least, and I fought them back with a scream of my own. Even though it wouldn't change anything, I still couldn't help but scream. This time, the tears flowed. Wait, no, let me see this, pretty. You know, the thing about cicadas only emerging once per year, it definitely is interesting. I've been confronted with the most horrific outcome. That night I'd tried to avoid considering ever since last night, and I cried. There was no longer any doubt that it was my fault. I killed them. I killed Rika-chan and Sadako. I succumbed to the weakness of my own heart and confessed everything to Rika-chan. That's why they were killed. That meant I killed them. I'm trying to remember who it is. Was it Jack? Talking about, maybe we should blame the actual murderers? When Rika-chan looked up at me with those innocent eyes, if only I hadn't given in. Even my voice gave out, and yet still, I cried and cried. Kei-chan, please, just try and calm down. What happened on the phone call? Shion was like, oh, they're probably super dead. Rika-chan and Sadako, they've been killed. We couldn't even find their remains. I would never be allowed to even apologize to their faces. If that was to be my punishment, then a brutal a punishment it was. I think Shion tried to comfort me, but I didn't hear any of it. What are you going to gain by doing that? They're definitely going to target you and me next. Please, I'm asking you, get a hold of yourself. Please. Please. Shion was shouting, imploring me with a voice that sounded like tears were in her eyes. However, I was coming to hate the sound of that voice more and more. This Shion killed them. I had no doubts that this person killed them. Why? 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 Why kidnap someone and then kill them? Screw curses. Are people's lives really that cheap? Erasing them and killing them without a second thought like this? You're right. You're absolutely right. It would take a demon. I felt like crushing the receiver in my hand. How long did this person plan on acting like it was someone else's problem? There was magma in the pit of my stomach, and it felt like it was going to erupt at any moment. Hey, Shion, please tell me. Why did Hinamizawa start needing someone to die on the night of Watanagashi? That's what I'd like to know. The fighting over the dam project is already done with. Haven't enough people been cursed already? Why is it? Why? If there's a reason, then say it now. I was incoherent at this point. My emotions had broken through the dam inside of me, rushing forth, and I couldn't stop them. These were not simple questions. This was an interrogation. Shion herself hadn't realized it yet. It was just too funny. It was so funny that I couldn't stop crying. That's a Higurashi line right there. That's a heater. Jack, that's a good point. I understand how you feel, Kei-chan. I really do. The dam wars ended a long time ago. Yet, murders and disappearances keep happening every year under the guise of Oyashiro-sama's curse. Why? Why is it happening? Some of them had nothing to do with this, and some of them didn't deserve to be cursed, so why? Why? That's what I'm asking you. I want to know that as much as anyone. Both our ragged breaths could be heard over the phone. Listen. Oyashiro-sama's curse never existed. It's too unrealistic. Just like you said, someone in the village is using the grand name of Oyashiro-sama's curse as a justification for continuing these murders and disappearances every Watanagashi. They were cunning. They've been using the curse as a convenient tool and made a system where they would get rid of 2 enemies in the village every year. And this year, that system killed Takano-san and Tomitake-san. And why wasn't that enough? Why did the mayor and Rika-chan and Sadako have to get killed too? I don't give a shit about the past. The only thing I care about is why Rika-chan and Sadako needed to be killed. Why is that? I didn't say a word to Sadako, you know. Why even her? Why? A silence fell between us. Shion didn't answer for a while. Kei-chan, please, stop being mean. A sob. Was Shion crying? I don't have any idea what's going on either. Everything changed when we went into the ritual storehouse that night. It was the same for me. As I listened to Shion's bitter weeping, I could feel my agitation subsiding. When I heard that Takano-san and Tometake-san had been killed that night, I doubted my ears. Then I realized it instantly. I realized what sort of position I was in now. The four of us snuck in there. Kei-chan, you and I won't be so conveniently forgiven. When I thought about that, it made my chest feel so tight. It was so terrifying. You know the feeling, Kei-chan, don't you? There was nothing fake about her words. She'd even understood how I felt. That's why I confessed everything to Old Man Kimiyoshi. After all of us entered the Forbidden Storehouse, it was just a little bit of fun. We knew we shouldn't have done it, but it really had just been for fun. It was only a bit of exploration, that was all. Takano-san and Tometake-san, who went in with us, were killed shortly after. They met such miserable ends. Since that day, I've been living in fear when I would be attacked. There was nobody except Old Man Kimiyoshi who would help me, so I asked him to save me. Old Man Kimiyoshi, he wasn't mad. He smiled and said, "If you're really sorry, Shion-chan, then you'd never be demoned away." He really did smile at me and told me to leave it to him. Shion cried bitterly, recalling the beloved mayor's death. It was such a sad voice that none who heard it could prevent it from twisting their hearts. Again, did I let my emotions take over and go off at her? Shion was in the same situation as me. She should have been my one and only comrade. Thump. My heart pounded. My other self, deep within my mind, whispered to me, "Don't forget, my Barakeiichi. Don't forget about the mayor on the morning after Watanagashi. He was told of Tometake-san and Takano-san's deaths over the phone and committed to a meeting that evening. He went to a hospital appointment. He didn't tell his family. He'd only made it back just in time for the meeting. He went straight to the assembly hall. That's what Oishi-san said." When did you let the mayor know? Huh? I'm sorry, Shion. It must seem like I'm kicking you while you're down, but... Shion, you told him, right? You told Old Man Kimiyoshi, the mayor? Yes. When did you let him know? I'd begun to get scared of saying it aloud after hearing her sad voice. I wasn't saying it was contradictory, though. Besides, if there was a contradiction, then I wanted Shion to explain it to me. Did you know that the mayor had a severe case of hemorrhoids and had gone to the hospital for treatment? Kei-chan? What does that have to... I can't believe the mayor's hemorrhoids are a plot point. Please, answer me. If you didn't know, then just say so. There was a momentary silence. And after stammering a few times, she replied, I knew that. He had hemorrhoids. It looked like sitting down was really hard for him. He was going to the hospital. You know which hospital, right? I'm sorry, I don't know that much, but... Kei-chan, what does that have to do with... Shion didn't know what hospital the mayor went to. That means it was impossible for her to have gone all the way to the hospital to confess anything. Shion didn't know his destination. Then she obviously couldn't have seen him on the train either. If there was any other chance for her to contact him, it would have been after he came to Hinamizawa. The train, however, had been delayed, and he only got back right before the meeting was about to start. He didn't have time. There wouldn't have been enough time for him to listen to Shion spill the beans. I want to ask you straight. Shion, when did you tell the mayor about everything? When and where? Your answer doesn't have to be precise, but please give me one. Kei-chan, why are you asking that? Her sob pierced into my ears. I was taken by the illusion that I was bullying her. Even so, I'll say it. If I'm wrong, then please correct me. Please prove to me that you're the real Shion. It was impossible. The day the mayor disappeared, from dawn until he vanished, there was no opportunity for you to contact him. That's... The mayor left first thing in the morning for his examination at the university hospital all by himself, without telling anyone. Shion, you just said you didn't know what hospital he went to. So you couldn't have contacted the mayor until he got back. Isn't that right? His train back was delayed by an accident, and he didn't return to his house until the meeting was about to start. So there was no time for you to have told him before the meeting started either. I heard Shion repeating her weak sobs. That sort of feminine voice automatically ripped into my heart. It was so painful for me to say it. Shion, did you go to the meeting too? Did you attend it and tell him there? He's trying to give her every out that he can, though. If you didn't, then there wouldn't have been any time left. After the meeting was over, the mayor disappeared on his way home. Shion went to the meeting, didn't she? Did she or didn't she? The question was so simple to answer, but she didn't give me an immediate response. Actually, with the meeting, You didn't even go to the part-time job you said you went to that day. I'll say it more directly. You haven't been seen since we were at the library together. Kei-chan, Sonozaki Shion disappeared the day after Watanagashi. The other end fell silent as the grave. It was so quiet that it was like the phone cord had been cut. I couldn't sense anyone there. Oishi-san says you've been missing. Despite that, you've been calling me every night like this, haven't you? Shion's sobs were torturing me. Still, I'm pretty sure I haven't said anything wrong. Please, Shion. If something I said was wrong, please say so. Shion, I'm begging you. Shion, there's no way you could have seen the mayor, but if you did see him, if Shion ever did have the chance to meet with the mayor on that day, then that meant... Then you saw him after the meeting. In other words, it could only been right before he disappeared, or else afterward. Beep, beep, went the dial tone. What do you think of my maniacal laughter? I knew that was coming. I had to make sure I was hydrated and my throat was clear for that. If it was earlier in the day, I could have done it as loud as I wanted to, but I needed to suppress the noise a little bit. Thank you, thank you. I stood there dazed for a while until I realized she had hung up on me. Was that how it was in the anime, or was that a Proxy original? That is... I tried to make it as anime accurate as possible. From the scrapbook 11 and at the Suzu Mahjong Parlor. Thank you for the hydrate. From Sarge and from Cameron in spirit. All right, let's look at these tips. What a funny one. The problem with twins. This is not limited to just Hinamizawa, but in Onigafuchi village especially, the three families detested giving birth to twins as successors. The long-term dictatorship built on the precarious balance of the three families must have feared collapsing under the weight of the internal strife from things like family quarrels. According to the literature, if twins were born, then they had to be culled. With that, the very fact that both the Sonozaki family successor, Sonozaki Mion, and her twin, Shion, are still alive in itself is deeply interesting. Perhaps the current leader, Oryo, is sympathetic? Of course, the twins were not cared for equally, and as the heir, Mion received special treatment. From what I've heard, despite the two of them looking exactly the same on the outside, the talent lies solely with Mion. My own observations of the two of them don't leave me with that impression. Tradition dictates that the leader of the Sonozaki family is said to inherit a demon, and they tattoo a magnificent one onto his or her back. In accordance with the tradition, there is an extremely high possibility that Mion has such a tattoo on her back. From what I've heard, there is apparently a magnificent demon tattooed on Oryo's back as well. Then, I wonder what sort of tattoo belongs to the heir, Mion. I really want to see her back. We have definitely never seen either of their backs. At the Suzu Mahjong Parlor. Oh, yes, in the anime opening, one of them has something on their backs, but we can't tell them apart yet. Yo, hey, Kels. How's it going? Yo, hey, Marana. Hi. Welcome. Kels, my maniacal laughter didn't bother you too much, I hope. We had a real Higurashi moment, and I had to really lean into it. Oh, I see. Would Shion be Mion all the time she's staying at her estate back in the village? Maybe someone will clip that, who knows? Reserved for the day, Suzu Mahjong Parlor. Got it, clack. Hey, Kurachan, you're the last one here. All the youngsters are already here. Excuse me, miss. Oishi's handed over a convenience store bag with a carton of cigarettes in it to the old lady who owned the Mahjong Parlor, and she shrewdly made herself scarce. She was used to this by now. Kelsey, you playing Tears of the Kingdom? Is it good? I'm gonna play it one day. I can't wait. Oishi-san, good work today. What, were you all earnestly waiting for me? You could have just done 3-player. Ugh, no, 3-person Mahjong sucks. Yeah, we got a little POV swap to Oishi, but we get these in the tips from time to time. Everyone sitting at the mahjong tables were in the small parlor were Oishi's subordinates. There were no tiles laid out anywhere. Everyone, I'd like to thank you for your days of investigation without sleep. Thank you. Energetic responses filled the parlor. Already it had lost the atmosphere of a place of entertainment. The situation is not looking good. The chief appears to have backed down due to Congressman Sonozaki's threats. In the coming days, we'll hand off Takano's murder to the Gifu police and give the missing persons case of the disappearance of the mayor and the others to the community division. That damn upstart chief. The veterans in the room cursed him. Oh, so the chief isn't like an older dude? Just realized that. Oh yeah, no, Prinny, that's fair. The POV of the main story switched to Oishi at the end of Onikakushi, when Keiichi was like in the process of dying. All of our requests for warrants were turned down as well. I've even been told by our section chief not to go anywhere near the Sonozaki house. We're certainly in a bind, that we are. Incidentally, it looks like I'll be getting orders soon to go to training at the Metropolis Police Department starting next week. After that, I've even been told to take a paid vacation in Izu. Well, I suppose that ain't bad. Well, they're getting Oishi out of here. He heard a few dry laughs. It wasn't anything to laugh about, but that was all they could do. This always happens, but incidents are a lot like locking your keys in the car. The keys you need to unlock the door are always locked inside. For cars, you call JAF and they'll pry your door open. For incidents? Uma-chan, show the map. Umatani flipped over the whiteboard. On the back was a map of the Sonozaki premises made with magnets. Now, I've been doing this job for a long time. I've got a lot of faith in my gut, but this could be the one time it was wrong, no? Anyone worried about their retirement money has until the count of 10 to get out of here. Oishi began to count to 10, and everyone counted along with him. It was their famous 10-count resolution. 9, 10. Ah, no one's leaving. None of you love your families too much, is that it? Everybody laughed uproariously, cheering things on. Oishi's going on. He's a loose cannon. I want everyone to go over their materials. Memorize the locations and blind spots of all the security cameras. Uma-chan, you'll stand by in the command car. If something happens, you'll switch with me and take over. Komiyama-kun will head up Infiltration Team A. Atsushi-kun will lead Team B. Observation teams will set up at points 1 through 8. Banshi-kun, you're responsible for keeping a strict timetable. Control your location so HQ doesn't get wise. They are raiding the Sonozaki estate. Now, the team on standby has the most important job, alright? If the section chief asks where I am, play dumb. I'll handle escorting our guest. I'll probably take him to the venue, so wait patiently, everyone. Wonder if he'll cave. Maibara Keiichi, that is. Was this? It is now. It is tonight. From what I've seen, we're set for tomorrow or the day after in that regard. It'll be easy. Well, those are the tips. This is the final chapter. This is the final chapter of Watanagashi-hen. So raid night. Let's go. Keiichi. Keiichi? Just leave him alone. His friends went missing. It must be really hard for him. Normally, my dad never shows me any consideration, but this time he did. Shouldn't Keiichi stay home from school for a while, too? I think it would be safer not to go until the police do something about this. Maybe. Compared to what could have happened, taking a few days off wouldn't be a bad idea. Anyway, how is it not logical to close school during such a dangerous situation? What do those teachers think our children are? Mom and Dad were getting pretty riled up, but at this point I couldn't care less. Besides, that wasn't the only thing I couldn't care less about. Breakfast table, the food in front of me, the time and date, myself. I really had no interest in anything. Does Keiichi mean... Yeah, it means Keiichi in general, because one is Ichi in Japanese. That's fair. Yeah, no, Onikakushi is a nice little table setting. Watanagashi-hen is a real-ass mystery. This feeling, it was like a dead fog in my mind. It felt like getting dizzy after taking strong medication. Keiichi, how are your studies going? You've gotten further than the other kids, haven't you? If you have, then you can take a few days off, alright? I didn't even feel like answering. Today was Thursday. Only 4 days had passed since the Watanagashi festival. Such a short time, and yet now things were completely different. Everything had changed. The tranquil village, bright and clear as if it were an Indian summer, had undergone a total reversal. People were made to disappear every night, and we couldn't even relax when walking out in broad daylight. The village had become a world of fear. I had no right to curse this outcome. After all, the one responsible for everything was me. That night, I couldn't resist my honestly tiny, little, and incredibly stupid curiosity and broke the taboo. No, Keiji, it was the murdery people. Me on miss school, she on off and skips. Those are some words. This isn't somewhere we should be going, is it? Let's not. It's a crime to force your way into a locked building, even if you don't steal anything. Shion, now that you know they weren't having some secret rendezvous, you've had enough, right? I don't want to do something like this. What if Rika-chan's dance ends while we're messing around here? I prattled on as I took the lock from Tomitake-san's hands and put it back on the door. I'll forget everything I saw here, so come on. Let's go. Let's go. Takano-san was fretting, but I pushed her away. Tomitake-san was grinning painfully. Shion's shoulders drooped as if to call me an idiot. Even so, I didn't care. I pushed everyone farther and farther away. Rika-chan's dance was still going on. Then, at last, her dance was brought to a close with a roaring applause. I, too, till my hands turned red, clapped. I clapped. God, when Higurashi gets sad. Oh! When they cry for real. Isn't that Rena-chan? She's here because it's your usual meetup time, isn't she? I looked up at the clock. It was 5 minutes past my time to meet with Rena. Keiichi, shouldn't you take a few days off from school? Because it was brought up with other characters and the whole demon thing, I looked it up. Apparently, Keiichi's name translates to Noble One. That's right, it does. I remember that, Iris. I don't think that info was ever given to us in-game, but that is true. Or maybe it is. I don't remember. You're right. Thanks for being so considerate. No, I think that was one of his parents. When they cry, what about when I cry? So true. I rose from my seat. I went to the entrance to greet Rena. Good morning. We're going to school as a group starting today, so you can't be late. Ah, that's right. If we, the ones furthest away, were to be late, the younger kids on the way there would be waiting for us. I think I'm going to take some time off from school. Okay. Rena answered shortly, nodding. I think you should do whatever's best for you, Keiichi-kun. So, You don't need to feel that you're weak or anything. I know she's trying to be nice genuinely, but she's like, alright, Keiichi, that's fine. It's not like you're a pussy or anything. Oh, and here. It's a notice they're sending around. Could you give it to your mom? I think it has a lot of important announcements in it. I took the notice. There were a lot more pages than normal. The one on top announced the disappearance of the mayor, Rika-chan, and Sadako, and that they wanted any information about them. It made my heart ache. The police are looking as best they can, too. They'll find them for sure. Just be patient, okay? Rena said, smiling in an attempt to give me courage. Rather than that, though, her smile looked like it was because she herself wanted to believe they were safe. Rena, you're not going to question me? Because Shion doesn't live in Hinamizawa. Iris. Nope. Rena, you know, don't you? About that night, You mean when you snuck into the ritual storehouse? I was speechless for a moment, but then I bit my lip, made up my mind, and nodded a little. So it's all out in the open. Really, I shouldn't do bad things like that. Mi-chan was really mad. So she was upset. I suppose she would have been. I don't think she was as angry about you sneaking in there, though. As much as about you hiding it from her. Maybe, Kei-chan, maybe you should have told her yourself and apologized. Usoda, We noticing a little bit of a theme in Higurashi? I should have told her myself and apologized. That troubled me. Just 1 week ago, I did something that I, myself, should have apologized to Mion for. Welcome, Spade. Good girl. Lily, that's so funny. Usoda means liar, or you're lying. I'd hurt her badly. However, I hadn't realized that at all. Plus, with all the confusion that Shion's appearance had brought, I still hadn't been able to talk to Mion about it. Rena, you're right. I never realize anything until you tell me. Ichi-kun, hypothetically... Oh no! If you had admitted you'd done something wrong right away, and apologized to Mi-chan, I wonder if Rika-chan and Sadako-chan wouldn't have had to disappear. Bro. Rena? Oh, June, thank you for the hydrate and the posture check. I couldn't answer right away. I'm immediately reminded of that post of someone doing dirty talk in Ben Shapiro's voice. It is really unfortunate that I can't read the word hypothetically without, losing my mind at this point. I couldn't admit to that. Wasn't Rena telling me right now, though, that I should have admitted to my crime sooner? If I had done that and apologized, would things not have gone in such a horrible direction? Rena's eyes were filled with kindness, but they weren't naive enough to forgive me for keeping silent. They stared fixedly on my own. Yeah, you're right. If I had admitted my crime sooner, then Rika-chan and Sadako wouldn't have had to die or disappear. Smack. The palm of Rena's hand slapped me in the cheek. I stood there unmoving, my head still tilted in the direction I'd been hit. It didn't hurt at all. Yeah, it's normal stuff to say, Marana, you're right. I don't think that anyone has scolded you, Keiichi-kun. So I'll scold you in their place, okay? I pressed a hand to my cheek, now warm with embarrassment, and quietly stared down at Rena's feet. Going somewhere you're not allowed to go was a very bad thing to do. Do you understand that? Uh-huh. Answer me with a yes, Keiichi-kun. Yes. Also, what's even worse, you didn't admit to having done something so bad. You should never do anything bad in the first place, but not admitting to it or apologizing for it is much, much worse. Yes, I was wrong. Keiichi's parents sitting in the living room listening to this like, mod check. For a few moments, Rena stared at me, silently and intently, as if gauging my remorse. Then finally, the tension in her face softened, and she smiled. Okay then. It's about time. I should be going. Alright. Be sure to give the notice to your mom, okay? Also, warn her not to go out to pass it on after it gets dark. I bent down to pick up the notice, which I'd dropped when she slapped me. The pages had come out of the clasp and were now making a mess on the floor. I gathered them up one by one. My hands stopped at a single, more light-hearted page with peaceful sentences dancing on it. We still have plenty of homemade soy sauce in stock. Feel free to come to the Sonozaki house if you want some. Bro, it gave me chills. I know everything that happens, and it still gave me chills. What is this? I picked up the page and scanned the rest of it. They were stockpiling high-quality soy sauce that they got from faraway relatives in the Akita prefecture. They had gotten a big shipment recently. They couldn't use it all, so they wanted anyone who wanted some of it to feel free to come over, is what it said. As a PS, it said it arrived in barrels, and to please bring a 2-liter bottle or some other container for it. That's how it tied together. If you need some soy sauce, then you would go to the Sonozaki house. Rena, did you know all along? Yeah, I knew. Rena had already been suspicious of Mion as soon as she noticed that big bottle of soy sauce was missing. So Rika and Sadako got kidnapped and are either missing or dead, and Rena intuited that whoever did it, it was someone whose house they went to get soy sauce from, with a lot of Columboing and Sherlocking. Rika-chan had taken the bottle and gone to Mion's house, and there she was erased. Rika-chan wasn't coming back, so Sadako called Mion's house since she knew where she had gone, and then Sadako got called there as well. That meeting on the day the mayor disappeared. Didn't Oishi-san say that the Free Families participated in it? The 3 families would include the Sonozaki family. Didn't he also say that the current leader was really old, so her heir, Mion, frequently stood in for her at public appearances? While the mayor was returning home from the shrine, Mion called out and stopped him. She talked to him and invited him to their house, and then she made him disappear. It was probably even simpler to make Shion disappear. Shion was part of the Sonozaki family. They probably knew exactly what she was doing at all times. I'm sure they even knew her part-time job schedule too. Thinking back, wasn't that Angel Morse store managed by the Sonozaki family? Setting up an ambush for her there wouldn't have been any trouble at all. I'm going to Mion. I'll go apologize. I'm going to have her put an end to everything. Mion probably won't forgive me easily, but I'll go and ask her not to sacrifice anyone else. With that decided, there was no need for me to be lazing around here. I put on my shoes and slipped past Rena to exit the house, when she stopped me. I'm going too. Rena, shouldn't you go to school? This is way more important than school. Rena, you shouldn't come. If you get wrapped up in this too, then I think I might actually go crazy. Rena didn't move her arm, which was blocking my way. If Keiichi-kun disappeared as well, then I think I might actually go crazy too. So I won't let you go alone. Oh, bro, I'm actually getting choked up. Yeah, surely this goes well. Rena argued boldly as tears welled up in her eyes. Fuck off! I saw them, and I knew the strength of her resolve. Alright, let's go. Thank you, Rena. Rena nodded slightly, but firmly, and finally let down the arm blocking me. Let's go. To Mion's house. I'll apologize for the crimes I've committed. Then we'll put an end to these twisted days. After that, I'll pray that once more we can return to those fun, lively days.